Yep. So I'm Oliver. I'm a senior software engineer at GP. So I've been working as an engineer in Northern Ireland for about 7 years now, and I've been with GP just over 3 years last week actually. So I've been working in the billing space and sort of invoicing as we build out our team here in Northern Ireland. So for those of you who don't know, GP is a leader in the global employment market, and they've been helping the companies to hire and manage their teams for over a decade now. So essentially what that means is if you want to start a business in New York, but you know that all the best software developers are here in Northern Ireland, GP can help you to start hiring them and managing that team while handling things like HR and legal and payroll, all that sort of stuff. And the market for this has really exploded over the past few years, pretty much since companies realized that we can get more work done at home in our pajamas than we can taking hundreds of tea breaks a day in the office. And because of that, GP is a 100% remote first company, and we believe that work is no longer a place that you go, it's something that can be anywhere. And we've been really evolving with this trend and have embarked on a modernization journey to continue supporting this growth. So today I'll talk about how GP has been transforming and how my team specifically has been using simplicity to run at a global scale, and how we've kept our runtimes and costs as low as possible through the use of serverless technology. And I'll also cover how building relationships outside of the development team and making that journey together has helped us to really accelerate growth at the rapid pace that's needed for true globalization. So in its first couple of years, GP was named as one of the fastest growing companies in America, and they've built a portfolio of thousands of customers and hundreds of partners over the past decade. And by combining our teams of HR and legal and compliance with our technology, we've been building out what we are calling our global growth platform. And that's essentially the foundation for us to build and deliver our products to enable our customers to start building out their own global teams within minutes. So as is often the case, we started with a monolith that all of the development teams are contributing into. So this really led to an increased cognitive burden. Just because there was such a significant business and technical knowledge required to really work within that space. And on top of that, there was no real sort of distinct boundaries. No one really owned any one part of it, and we were all working in different areas. And we also had a slow-moving release cycle. So we were working in 2 weekly increments, which really meant that if you missed that first deploy up to the testing environment, really then you were waiting at least 3 weeks before you were getting your features out to production. And our product autonomy was also really suffering because of that. It was restricting that sort of true product discovery and innovation and experimentation that we really needed. So we had to start making some changes to help us build out our platform. So we started by reducing that cognitive burden. And what we did was we aligned domains to teams with a focus on domain-driven design so that we all had clear areas of work. We also used event-driven architecture to help us create smaller workflows, which were managed in our own AWS accounts, and that helped us to provide that continuous delivery. And then we were able to manage our own release cycle, providing that perfect test and learn environment so that we could continually iterate and improve on what we were building. So now we have product delivery teams that have clear, managed, bounded contexts, and that enables us to focus on both the business and the product strategy. And by working directly with the business and product teams, we can increase our operational efficiency, we can rapidly expand, and we can provide immediate customer value. So the billing process is the perfect example of where having the right technology enables that solid foundation to operate on the global stage. We had the opportunity to really build this from the ground up, maximizing our operational efficiency, keeping our costs and our runtimes low, but also offering the scalability that's needed to price thousands and thousands of bills every single month. So we started off by working directly with the business to bring the flow down to its bare bones. And we had a series of example mapping workshops where we created diagrams like this, mapping out the different stories and different use cases, just to sort of map that business logic in a structured manner and how it directly would translate into the code. And this helped us to keep our processes really streamlined and made sure that we weren't overcomplicating anything or introducing any kind of spaghetti code. It was all very straightforward. And it also gave us as developers a real first-hand understanding of how we were actually contributing to the organization's vision by working directly with the business like that. So once we had done our example mapping, we used Cucumber to translate this into feature files. So you can see an example of what a feature file looks like here. And it's essentially a source of truth for the business logic that everyone can refer back to. It sits in our code base, so we have that commit history, which acts as like an audit log, essentially, that everyone can look at. So From the example mapping to this, we take our example mapping story, that becomes our scenario in this case. Then our story rules, we translate into a given when then format, and that becomes the steps that our code actually processes. And then our example scenarios are what we feed in as our test data. And it's all written in really business-friendly language. So that helps to break down those barriers. It means that everyone can contribute to it, developers or business. And like I said, it sits alongside our code. So if we're adding any sort of new rules or anything, it's really, really straightforward, and we have that accountability to back it up. If we want to add any new pricing, it can be added and deployed within hours, and that really helps to accelerate our time to market with new products. And because it's an established pattern that's easily repeatable, that's enabling true flexibility for our customers. If they spot a new product or they want to renegotiate their pricing, they can essentially do that within minutes with no sort of concerns about reliability or compliance there. So on the architecture side of things, we really wanted to focus on event-driven architecture with domain-driven design at the core. So although we were extracting from the monolith and breaking out there, we still wanted to be able to consume those events, and we could do that by staying loosely coupled here. And we were also able to continue involving the business as we designed it and in all of the decisions, because they're easily understood events. We have that shared understanding, everyone can contribute to it, everyone can have a say. So from the very start, we were really trying to keep it simple. I wish I could say our architecture still looked like this. It has evolved a bit, but this is how we started out. Like I said, consuming events from the monolith, we just set up some queues, which triggered lambdas to do things like saving, updating, deleting all of our contextual data. So that's stuff like our customer information, professional information, and that was all in the interest of eventual consistency. And then we have a lambda that actually does our pricing logic. So by sticking to these simple higher order AWS services, that really helped to start reducing that cognitive burden on the team. And by keeping our lambdas small and just focused on one task, that was reducing the domain knowledge that was actually required to sort of work in that area compared to working in the monolith. So one of the main benefits of serverless is obviously the scalability, which is key for us. And we started by setting concurrency on our lambdas so that we could really embrace that parallelism. If we could price one bill per second, we could price lots of bills per second, and there'd be no negative impacts to performance or reliability. We chose to use DynamoDB over a traditional sort of relational database. Again, it's just such a massive enabler for scale. DynamoDB has auto-scaling with on-demand capacity, which we utilized. And that just helps us to keep our runtime costs really low by only scaling up to capacity when traffic was high. And then we also use GSIs, or global secondary indexes, to help us control our access patterns and optimize our queries, so we were only returning the data that we needed when we needed it without impacting performance. So you can see from these graphs, bill pricing is pretty defined peaks and troughs throughout the month, and there's sort of two main spikes a month. And again, Dynamo is perfect for this. It'll scale up to capacity when we need it to, and we don't have to worry about any sort of increased latency there. And then the rest of the month, it's pretty dormant. So again, Dynamo is perfect for that. It's going to lie pretty dormant. It's going to cost us essentially nothing when it's not being used. On the other hand, the contextual data, you can see it's pretty different. It's very, very sporadic. But again, it's perfect for this because we don't need to know or predict that traffic. Dynamo will just provision the capacity that we need when we need it. So obviously billing is a pretty sensitive area to work in. If we have one wrong bill, that's pretty bad. If we have hundreds of wrong bills, that is catastrophic. If we overcharge or undercharge our customers, that'll be a big hit on our reputation. It will destroy the relationships that we're building with our customers, and it's also just a huge financial headache for everyone involved. The remediation effort is just astronomical, a lot of manual intervention, and our relationship that we've been building up with the business would really quickly start to spiral if that happened. So we have to be sure that our calculations were correct, and we have to find a tangible way to sort of reassure the business of this. So what we did was we actually ran in parallel with the existing flow. So bills were obviously being priced through that monolith and coming out the other end being sent to customers. So what we did was we took that actual bill that came out fully priced and we compared it to the same bill that ran through our system. And when we were doing this, we were really, really actively hoping to fail. We wanted to find the problems. We wanted to work it out as soon as possible. So as we started to ramp up the amount of customers that were running through our system, small issues started to work their way out. It's just things like rounding errors, exchange fees, that sort of thing. But it really helped to strengthen the trust with the business, and they could see that on our dashboards that we had. They could see the percentage match that we were getting with each bill. And it helped us work out the bugs in a much safer environment. We had the opportunity to fail fast and to fail forward. And then it meant that once we were actually ready to go live, we were in a much, much more secure position. So again, keeping a really simple architecture to do this, we had that event coming out of the monolith with the final calculated build. And using event-driven architecture again, we just added a queue and a Lambda. So using serverless using AWS was a real driver for being able to run in parity like this. Normally it would be seen as too much overhead to sort of be running two systems at once. But by just adding this super simple architecture to what we'd already built, it was literally just costing us a few dollars a month. And it was giving us that opportunity to refine and optimize. We could maximize our performance, and we could also test out the scalability of the system before we were actually in production. So sort of going back to all the issues that we were having at the start, now that we have that focused workload and automated pipelines, the turnaround time for fixes and deploys, really we can be getting things out in minutes if we need to. And that's really helped us to embrace that test and learn mindset. We're able to iterate quickly on each release, and we can constantly refine and improve what we're building. And it helps us to react faster to any changes, any new requirements that come in, or any issues that crop up. And that's obviously feeding the aim to increase our continuous delivery capability, as well as our product autonomy, and to remove those restrictions from that monolithic release cycle. So we're not missing deployments anymore. We're not waiting weeks to get our features out of production. Instead, we're fully in charge of those pipelines. We can release small changes with much greater frequency and avoid those sort of risky big bang releases. So our initial plan was to just enable a subset. We would start off with one country, then we would ramp up to 50% of customers, and then finally 100% of customers a few months down the line. So really sort of start small, see how it goes, and ramp up as we need to. So we worked with a billing specialist who priced one bill just to make sure that we didn't totally break everything, then 100 bills, and then on to our first country. So you can see, I think the results really speak for themselves there. We really cut the processing time of bills significantly. There's a time saving of about 94%. So on a per bill basis, that was reducing the processing time from minutes down to seconds. So because we have that contextual data in the background, always saving and updating, it's ready and waiting to be used when it's needed. And then because our pricing lambda has that one job just to price the bill, it's a really low runtime. And again, the parallelism comes into play there. We can price lots and lots of bills at once, increasing those time savings and leading to such an impressive outcome. So obviously our initial plan was totally scrapped after that. The business was 100% ready and confident to just roll out to all countries within one. But we recognized that the trust that we had built was really key to the ongoing success, not only of what we had built, but also for driving change within the organization. So we wanted to find more efficient ways, more cost savings, to keep innovating and keep moving forward. So now that we're sort of running alone, we realized that our parity checker that we had built was obviously redundant. It was time to evolve. It was time to keep that momentum going. So we wanted to introduce further automations so that the system could run pretty much on its own with really minimal intervention, either from us or from the business. So we took the same sort of idea as a parity checker, but this time we were comparing it to the previous month's bill. So each month's bills are pretty similar, apart from maybe a couple of outlying payments like bonuses and stuff, but they're pretty much should be the same month on month. So we were able to grab that price bill that we had priced and just compare it to the previous month's bill and automatically check for any sort of discrepancies that are outside of acceptable bounds. And again, you can see really simple architecture here. We just replaced that previous queue and lambda that we have for parity, and now it's just the comparator instead. And then we were able to take that eventing one step further and create this business-friendly report. So this just shows things like any kind of errors, any failures, any mismatches that we might have. And that means that instead of the business having to review each bill one by one, the bills are able to be priced within minutes, and then they can just check the corresponding report and immediately see if there's been any issues. And on top of that, we were also able to utilize monitoring and alerting within New Relic. So then the dev team was getting notified if there was any problems cropping up, and we were able to proactively reach out to the business and help resolve those as soon as we could. And then in terms of just the ongoing health of our system, we use the score process to utilize well-architected as a practice. So this was a monthly activity that we sort of used to check and discuss things like our workload run times and our cold starts and stuff. So we were able to monitor our performance and see if there's any improvements kind of needed so that we could keep delivering that business value to our customers. We were also able to monitor things like our system failures and incidents to make sure that if anything did go wrong, we were able to recover quickly and securely. And then it also kept us keenly aware of our costs. So we were always seeking to eliminate anything that was negatively contributing to our TCO. And this was a cross-team exercise. So there's other teams in the company on a similar journey to ours. And it was just a great opportunity to be able to share those learnings, share any pitfalls we'd run into, any improvements other teams could make use of, and just a really collaborative exercise. So I think we've learned a lot from this. We've enabled a lot for this in the company. So one of the main things is just utilizing this trinity of the serverless first mindset coupled with event-driven architecture and domain-driven design. We're really able to unlock major efficiencies and cost savings through the true agility and fast-paced development that this gives us. And it really helped us to propel the business forward and accelerate growth while also collaborating directly with the business. And we've learned that us as developers can truly affect change in a business. Normally there's someone in the middle that's maybe translating requirements from each side, but the most straightforward path is really for the business and developers to just work directly together. And when we were doing this, we felt really empowered to sort of push back and ask questions about whether what we were doing was in the best interest of everyone involved. And it helped us to break down those silos and boundaries that exist in a traditional business. And instead, we worked as one cohesive team and strengthened everyone's domain knowledge. And then finally, how we can continue our growth by enabling the organization. So obviously billing is just a small part of GP, but other teams have been able to see our progress, hear our journey, and they can start to reenact it in their own spaces, and they are doing so. Like I said, we've encouraged that closer connection between developers and the business. It's a more cohesive company. We're building what really works for our customers. By reducing our operational overhead and our total cost of ownership, we've been able to increase the speed that we can respond to opportunities, and we can continue that momentum into the future. And then finally, just our continued focus on domain-driven design, event-driven architecture, serverless first, and the well-architected pillars have been totally key to unlocking true agility at GP. And so with that, I just want to say thank you so much for listening to our journey here at GP. I hope you can take some sort of inspiration or empowerment away from it and start to maybe make it work in your own organization. If you have any thoughts or any questions, I'll be around for the rest of the day. I'd be totally happy to chat with it. Thank you.